well, which might be a new point, is again the rise of the non-mainstream media and the way that they've really been dealing with the elections. Also mentioning Musk there at that point. This is something that Trump had also talked about in his victory speech, which we just listened to a short while ago. But before we come back to you, I just want to go through some statistics that we now have. Let's talk about the voter base, and this is going to be quite interesting when we talk about the divide between the voters in the United States. And this is more about the demography that we're going to be talking about next. So when we talk about the young voters, and this is something where you're not seeing a big difference, but in 2024, again, this year itself, when it comes to the elections, 50% of them were for Harris, while for 2020, 60% of them were for Biden. So you're seeing a decrease in young voter support when it comes to a Biden versus a Harris during this administration. For black voters, if we're comparing 2020 and 2024, in 2020, during the last elections, 90% of them were for Biden. And here's another key point. The black voters this year itself, 80% of them were for Harris. That's, again, a big key difference, a decrease in the support that they're getting, the Democrats, when you see a difference in the candidates, Biden versus Harris. You're seeing Harris not getting as much as Biden had gotten in the last elections. Hispanic voters. Again, this is an impact of what we've seen in the last 4 years with the Biden-Harris administration. But the Hispanic voters, again, a key base, you're once again seeing a decrease. In 2020, 60% were for Biden. Now, this year, 50% are for Harris. So in all three of these key vote bases, when you're talking about the young voters, the youth, when you're talking about the black voters, when you're talking about the Hispanic voters, all of them during these elections have put in a decreased amount of support for Harris as the president. They were more supportive when it was Biden, and that was, again, 4 years ago. Since then, we've seen multiple things happen, especially with Biden gaining massive criticism for multiple things. One key item being the support for the wars that are taking place around the world. Now, this is one key definitive statistic that we have for you. This is about the way that the votes have decreased from 2020 to 2024 for Harris especially, and that's something that's contributed massively to the loss that we're seeing today, which has actually also led to Trump and the big red wave that we're seeing in multiple states, and key of those being the swing states, which my colleague Ritangshu was just explaining more about why exactly that's so significant. Because as we've also said, it's unprecedented for Donald Trump to be getting all seven swing states. Now, beyond this, we also have to tell you more about what's taking place with the markets itself. Earlier today, what we had learned was that India's markets were in the green. That was initially when the poll trends had started coming in. And essentially, with the poll trends, which had predicted and projected Donald Trump as the next president of the United States returning to the White House, essentially the markets had responded. They were in the green. Now, again, when it comes to the U.S. elections and how significant it is, it's not just significant for America. It does have a big impact on not just India as well, but again, one thing that's also important to note here is that the relationship that India and America share will further be boosted by Trump becoming president instead of having a Kamala Harris as a president, because Republicans significantly have been very supportive of India. But again, one thing that one of our colleagues, Shreyad, earlier told us about was the fact that Donald Trump has previously hit out at India, calling India one of the biggest abusers of tariffs. So we'll have to see exactly how this relationship is navigated. But right now we're going to be taking a closer look at the markets. Now, the Lal Street rejoices. It's Trump's triumph, and